Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a hero whose very existence is like a living paradox, a walking, breathing what if. Picture this: a lone warrior, a Super Saiyan appearing out of nowhere, a broadsword at the ready to dispatch a galactic tyrant with just chilling efficiency. That's Trunks. But it's probably not the Trunks you immediately picture. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating, complex, and yeah, often heartbreaking story of Trunks. Not just one, but two distinct versions of him.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how the Trunks we know splits into two distinct yet profoundly connected narratives. We're not just discussing a character, we're exploring the implications of alternate futures, the profound impact of different circumstances, and, how those forge entirely different souls. It's a compelling look at that core concept of nature versus nurture, destiny versus individual choice, all wrapped up in the epic martial arts saga of Dragon Ball.
It's an ambitious journey, charting how seemingly identical origins can lead to such, well, divergent destinies. Our mission today is to trace the complete evolution of both future Trunks, the one who arrived from that desolate timeline, and present Trunks, his counterpart from the main, peaceful timeline. We'll explore their unique journeys, their strengths, their flaws, and the indelible mark they've left on the Dragon Ball universe. For you, the listener, this will be your shortcut to truly understanding one of the franchise's most compelling figures and the profound narrative implications that time travel introduces to a story. Let's begin with Future Trunks, because his story is, in many ways, the genesis of this entire paradox, and arguably the more impactful one in terms of shaping the larger Dragon Ball narrative, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. His origin is rooted in utter devastation. We're talking about a Saiyan Earthling hybrid, the son of future Vegeta and future Bulma, from an alternate timeline. Crucially, his timeline was drastically altered, ironically enough, by his own and Cell's trips back to the past. This meant his life was profoundly, fundamentally different from the one his main timeline counterpart would ever experience. He wasn't born into a world of heroes and, relative peace. He was born into an apocalypse.
That's precisely it. His world was consumed by an android nightmare, a scenario far more dire than anything the main timeline characters ever truly faced.
Exactly. Future androids 17 and 18 weren't just threats. They were the ultimate destroyers. They systematically murdered the entire Dragon team, virtually all of Earth's greatest defenders. We're talking Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, the whole lineup. This act alone plunged Earth into a state of apocalyptic anarchy, pushing humanity to the very brink of extinction. Imagine living in a world where constant fear is the baseline. The sheer scale of that devastation is almost impossible to overstate. Hope was not just a luxury, it was like a near-extinct concept.
And you truly feel that despair through him. I mean, think about that poignant quote he delivers to those androids, capturing the absolute horror they inflicted. You hate the fact that you're powerless to stop me. Imagine feeling the way you do now all of the time like the people of this planet do.
Whoa.
How do you think my master Gohan felt when you ganged up on him in the rain and he had no way out? Well, now it's your turn. I hope you enjoy it. That's not just a battle cry. It's a raw, unfiltered expression of years of trauma, the embodiment of a world pushed past its breaking point. It's the voice of a survivor exacting long-awaited justice.
It speaks volumes about his upbringing, doesn't it? He was raised in constant fear, a lonely existence. His only real mentor and friend was future Gohan, who, despite only having one arm after a devastating battle, trained young Trunks as a teenager. The pivotal, brutal blow that truly shaped Trunks was Gohan's death, which he witnessed firsthand. That overwhelming loss, that sheer rage and despair, was what finally triggered his Super Saiyan transformation. He wasn't just left. He was abandoned as the last hope, a lone warrior battling impossible odds, carrying the crushing weight of a dying world on his shoulders. This moment isn't just a power-up. It's the crystallization of his entire tragic existence.
And that trauma undeniably shaped his entire personality, fundamentally differentiating him from his main timeline counterpart. Future Trunks is exceptionally well-mannered, serious, and incredibly cautious. There's a broody quality to him, a deep-seated post-traumatic stress from his apocalyptic, nightmarish world. He completely lacks the arrogance and pride we typically see in Saiyans like Goku, or even his own father, Vegeta. He's pragmatic to his core, driven by survival, not showmanship.
Yeah, his pragmatic methods are a direct consequence of that brutal environment. He had no room for Saiyan pride or, drawn-out battles. He learned that efficiency was paramount for survival. Think about it. He quickly killed Frieza and King Cold without allowing them to power up. a stark contrast to Goku's tendency to let villains reach their full strength.
Totally different approach.
He even attempted to destroy the present androids 17 and 18 before they could be activated and tried to attack Cell while he was still transforming, showcasing a decisive, preemptive mindset. He even suggested radical tactics to Goku, like eating a senzu bean during his fight with Perfect Cell or ganging up on him, a concept almost unheard of for a Saiyan.
That's fascinating. He wasn't bound by those same warrior codes.
Not at all. Later, when he returned to his timeline, he didn't hesitate. He swiftly eliminated the future androids, then Babidi and Dabura, preventing Majin Buu's release entirely. His sole focus was on achieving victory by any means necessary, a profound subversion of traditional Saiyan honor codes, forged in the fires of constant loss and the desperate need for survival.
His respect for others, especially his mother, future Bulma, and his master, future Gohan, is also incredibly deep, bordering on reverence. You see that constant effort to impress Vegeta when he meets him in the past, even as he's clearly disgusted by his father's uncaring attitude. Remember when Dr. Gero blew up their capsule airplane with Bulma and Baby Trunks inside, and Vegeta just stood there, refused to save them?
Yeah, that was a harsh moment.
Future Trunks had to save them himself. He referred to Vegeta and Bulma as father and mother in the Japanese version, a more formal address than his counterpart, highlighting that emotional distance and the profound difference in their relationship, a relationship built on admiration from afar rather than shared childhood.
Visually, Future Trunks' iconic look, that cropped indigo jacket with the Capsule Corporation logo and his broadsword, immediately telegraphs his serious, battle-hardened nature. While his hair color has been famously inconsistent across different media, appearing as lavender, purple, or blue, it's always associated with this version of the character.
That lavender hair is pretty iconic for him, yeah.
He's depicted as slim yet well-built, reflecting his intense training. Later, during his Cell training, he adopted battle armor and even sported long hair, which he sometimes tied in a ponytail, a nod to his father's own look during that period. In Dragon Ball Super, he gets a distinct light blue denim jacket, and his hair is consistently blue, solidifying that look for a new generation of fans.
And amidst all this seriousness, it's interesting to note his subtle personal interests. He enjoys tinkering with machines, a clear nod to his mother's genius. And surprisingly, convenience store bento, which subtly grounds him and reminds us of his earthling heritage amidst the apocalypse.
It's a nice touch. That brings us to his crucial role as time traveler. Driven by future Bulma's desperate hope, she developed the time machine and painstakingly gathered the fuel for his one-way journey. His initial intention was twofold: either uncover the android's vulnerability or perhaps even more desperately, transport Goku to his timeline to preserve his life, as Goku was supposed to be the savior they never had. Talk about a heavy burden for a teenager to carry.
Seriously, a monumental gamble. His shocking arrival in the main timeline was nothing short of dramatic. Imagine being Goku and the Z-Fighters still reeling from the news of Frieza's unexpected survival, only for this mysterious figure to appear and effortlessly slice Frieza to pieces, then dispatch King Cold just as easily.
It immediately established him as a formidable, unpredictable force, a complete unknown dropping into their lives with earth-shattering news. It wasn't just a display of power, it was a narrative jolt that reset expectations for the entire series.
He had to navigate the unpredictable past, which was a constant challenge. He warned Goku about the androids and the deadly heart virus, which was his primary mission, right? Prevent the future he knew.
Exactly. But he was constantly surprised by events that differed from his recollection, like Piccolo's fusion with Kami, which he couldn't have accounted for. His initial resistance to do anything unless Goku was present really showed how much he relied on his knowledge of the correct timeline. Revealing a deep anxiety about further altering history, he was a man with a rigid playbook trying to operate in a wildly improvisational play. And this reliance on pre-existing knowledge, combined with his ingrained pragmatic nature, also made him a shrewd strategic investigator. A great example is when he stopped Krillin, one of the Z-Fighters and Goku's longtime friend, from immediately destroying Dr. Gero's underground lab.
Right. Krillin, understandably, wanted to wipe out the threat before it could materialize, but Future Trunks insisted on investigating the lab first, hoping to find blueprints of the androids that could point to a weakness. This decision, seemingly minor, saved countless lives by giving them the knowledge they needed to prepare.
It raises an important question, doesn't it? How much of our identity is shaped by the presence or absence of key figures in our lives, especially parents? Future Trunks' dynamic with Vegeta, or rather the lack of one for most of his life, truly sets him apart. And you see that playing out even in these early interactions where he seeks tactical advantage over raw power.
Precisely. He's constantly trying to impress Vegeta, his father, whom he never truly knew beyond stories, while simultaneously being disgusted by Vegeta's incredibly uncaring attitude towards others, even his own family. That scene where Vegeta refused to save Bulma and Baby Trunks when Dr. Gero blew up their capsule airplane, forcing Future Trunks to step in, it really hammers home the vast difference in their upbringings and the kind of person Vegeta was in the main timeline versus the stoic, almost mythical figure Future Trunks had idealized.
Yeah, it's a clash of what was and what could have been. Okay, moving into the Cell Game saga, we see Future Trunks wrestling with his identity as a conflicted son. He trained intensely with Vegeta in the hyperbolic time chamber, that special dimension where time flows much faster. Pushing himself to achieve advanced Super Saiyan states like Ascended Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan 3rd grade, he believed that sheer bulk and raw power and almost brutish strength would be the definitive answer.
He was mirroring his father's relentless pursuit of power, perhaps hoping to earn his respect through strength.
Here's where it gets really interesting. He's literally fighting for his life alongside a father he never truly knew and a hero, Goku, who was supposed to be dead in his timeline. The emotional weight here is immense.
But his encounters with Perfect Cell quickly revealed the fatal limitations of his bulkier forms. The massive power came at the devastating cost of speed, making him an easy, ponderous target. It also painfully exposed the depths of his father's destructive pride, as Vegeta, in his arrogance, allowed Cell to achieve his perfect form, putting everyone at unimaginable risk. It was a harsh lesson, not just in combat, but in the flaws of unchecked Saiyan ego.
Right. That brief moment of cockiness as Super Saiyan 3rd grade quickly dissolved once he realized his critical mistake. You see his quiet frustration with Vegeta's pride throughout this period, but also his ultimate respect for Goku's self-sacrifice during the Cell Games.
This was a profound turning point, as he learned that pure, unrefined strength isn't always the path to victory, and that selflessness and strategic thinking could be a greater, more sustainable power. He saw firsthand the consequences of his father's hubris, and the quiet strength of Goku's calculated heroism.
He also truly developed into a master tactician during this time, and it really shines through as a hallmark of his unique character. He's capable of creating and executing complex battle strategies, attacking at appropriate times, and easily adapting to enemies' battle styles, a direct consequence of his trauma-informed approach to combat.
Definitely. Think about his distraction of Mecha Frieza with a burning attack to set up that deadly, effortless strike that disintegrated him, or his hit-and-run tactics with Goku Black and Earth's resistance, which incredibly kept humanity alive long enough to get help.
He even bluffed using Super Saiyan 3rd grade against Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta in a sparring match just to get his father to drop his guard. That's a level of strategic thinking rarely seen from pure Saiyans, who often prefer a direct, power-focused approach.
It truly underscores his intelligence, a trait he inherited from his mother, Bulma, and sharpened in the crucible of his apocalyptic future. With Cell finally defeated in the past, Future Trunks was able to return to his ravaged timeline, carrying not just greater strength, but the invaluable wisdom gained from his journey. This was the moment he had been fighting for his entire life, the culmination of his desperate gambit.
And what a moment it was. He swiftly dispatched androids 17 and 18. It was almost effortless for him now, after witnessing the main timeline's Z-Fighters in action and training alongside his father. The nightmares that had plagued his world for years were finally eliminated.
Then he easily defeated the resurrected Frieza and King Cold, completing the eradication of his timeline's major threats.
This segment truly underscores the so what of Future Trunks' entire mission. This was a moment of true, unequivocal victory and redemption for Trunks.
Yeah, his future was finally at peace, a profound testament to his perseverance and the world-altering impact of his past interventions. It was a rare, unambiguous, happy ending in Dragon Ball, a shining beacon of hope for a character who had endured so much. This wasn't just a personal victory, it was a definitive moment of narrative payoff for everything he had suffered and fought for, demonstrating the profound power of choice and intervention. He had literally rewritten the future.
But then, just when we thought Future Trunks had found his much-deserved peace, the Super Era arrived, plunging his timeline into a new, even more terrifying despair. Goku Black and Zamasu, a god-level threat, emerged, once again pushing humanity to the brink of extinction. It was a cruel, almost unthinkable twist of fate for a character who had already lost everything and then rebuilt it.
The personal loss for future Trunks during this arc was immense all over again. He witnessed the brutal death of his mother, future Bulma, and the near death of future Mai. This trauma, layered upon his existing scars, caused his post-traumatic stress to resurface with brutal intensity, leading him to tragically mistake Goku for Black and attack him without thinking.
Oh man, that was rough.
He was having vivid visions of his destroyed future instead of the peaceful present timeline, showing just how deep those psychological scars ran and how easily they could be triggered by new threats that mirrored his past.
Pushed to unimaginable limits once more, he achieved a unique, rage-fueled transformation. Super Saiyan Rage, sometimes called Ikari. It was a raw, primal burst of power born directly from his despair and fury. He also developed newfound sword skills, making him an even more formidable and desperate warrior.
His unwavering determination to protect the last remnants of humanity and his desperate pleas for help from the past showcased his growth into a truly powerful, mature, and empathetic fighter. This wasn't just a power-up, it was a visceral manifestation of his will to survive and protect.
We also saw Vegeta's influence on his growth in a more direct and critical way during this arc. Vegeta, ever the tough love mentor, called him out. He told Trunks he shouldn't just train when a new enemy appears, but should train every day to become stronger, to always be ready for the next threat.
Right, and Vegeta also criticized his reliance on others to essentially solve his problems for him, pushing him to stand on his own 2 feet. It was a difficult truth, but it was exactly what Trunks needed to hear to fully mature as a warrior. This arc highlighted not just Trunks' power, but his internal journey to self-sufficiency.
And Trunks finally acknowledged that reliance during the climactic finale against fused Zamasu. Instead of seeing it as a weakness, he brilliantly turned it into his greatest strength, manifesting as a bladed spirit bomb. It was a beautiful culmination of his journey, showing that collaboration, trust, and the combined will of humanity could be a warrior's most potent weapon, especially when facing a divine threat.
It was a truly awesome moment. And his relationship with future Mai is also a key part of this arc, adding a crucial layer of personal connection. They chronologically met as young kids, but later became close allies in the resistance against Goku Black, fighting side by side. Their mutual saving of each other and their tearful relief when reunited showed a deep, unspoken bond.
Yeah, and it was even humorously highlighted by their blushing denials whenever their relationship was mentioned, a classic Dragon Ball trope that adds a bit of levity to the darkness.
Ultimately, his story in Super ended with an uncertain future, as he and future Mai had to depart to another future timeline, where another future Trunks already existed due to the intervention of Beerus and Whis. A bittersweet ending, perhaps, but one that once again showed his resilience and capacity for finding a new path, even when his own world was erased.
Okay, wow. That's a lot for future Trunks. Now let's pivot dramatically to present Trunks, the spoiled Prince of Peace. Here we have a completely different upbringing, almost a mirror opposite of his future counterpart. He's the firstborn child of Vegeta and Bulma in the main timeline, born in age 766, the exact same year as future Trunks. But their lives could not have been more completely different, a stark testament to the profound impact of environment on character.
Absolutely. Present Trunks grew up with his father, Vegeta, constantly present, if stern, and enjoyed all the luxuries of a peaceful, technologically advanced world. He was undeniably pampered by his family, living a life of immense privilege as the heir to Capsule Corporation. This upbringing, contrasted with the apocalyptic future of his counterpart, explains so much of their divergence. He had a stable, loving, if sometimes chaotic family unit, which allowed him to develop a very different set of priorities and personality traits.
And that pampered life manifests vividly in his personality. Unlike his future counterpart, present Trunks is quite cocky and stingy, mischievous, and undeniably arrogant. He truly embodies both of his parents' personalities. He's cocky and proud like his father, Vegeta, and spoiled and selfish like his mother, Bulma. It's a fascinating blend of the best and worst traits of his lineage, unrestrained by the horrors of an android apocalypse.
Yeah, his initial disrespect for those he doesn't like is quite evident, especially when he first meets Goku. He dismisses Goku, believing he's not as strong as Vegeta, a clear sign of his limited worldview shaped by his father's constant boasts. However, this changes after he witnesses Goku's incredible Super Saiyan 3 power, a significant turning point that forces him to acknowledge power beyond his immediate family.
Even with that arrogance, though, he's very loyal and respectful towards his father, views him as a hero, even vowed to surpass him. But he also admits that he's afraid of Vegeta's discipline when he misbehaves, showing that strict Saiyan upbringing, even in peace, still very much shapes his boundaries.
Definitely. He possesses a competitive streak and passion for fighting, inherited directly from Vegeta, but maybe less aggressive, more playful perhaps. He's incredibly proud of his Saiyan heritage, believing them to be the mightiest warrior race. But it's not all brawn. He's highly intelligent for his age. He inherited his mother's and grandfather's scientific minds, demonstrating a significantly huge amount of knowledge about biological and science-related topics from a young age.
Right, like being able to identify culture tank equipment and define biotechnology when he was quite young. He also possesses a tactical mind, like his father and his maternal grandfather, Dr. Brief, as seen in his clever deception of Dr. Mew alongside Jiru in the Dragon Ball GT series.
Emotionally, he was initially a bit disappointed when his younger sister Bula was born, wanting a brother to train with. But he quickly changed his heart and became incredibly protective of her, demonstrating a softer, more familial side.
And he's got a somewhat crass sense of humor that definitely sets him apart. Who can forget him mooning Broly and his clone, Bio Broly? Or using more vulgar language in the Japanese versions. It shows a playful, almost mischievous side that future Trunks simply couldn't afford to have.
He also shows a clear interest in girls, developing a crush on Mai, and even finding the villainous Toa attractive, though he's hilariously unaware of Toa's true nefarious nature or her antagonistic relationship with his future counterpart, Trunks, Zeno, from the video games. On the flip side, he's somewhat creeped out by men flirting with him, like Otokosuki, adding a touch of relatable teenage awkwardness.
Visually, present Trunks' appearance is also subject to some interesting inconsistencies, especially his hair color. It varies between shades of purple, blue, and even red in his Super Saiyan third grade state.
Yeah, while future Trunks' anime hair eventually changed consistently to blue, present Trunks typically maintains a lavender hue. Though in the manga, both versions often sport blue hair, creating a bit of a fan debate. His wardrobe is also quite diverse throughout the series, from his dark green gi and orange belt when he was younger, to a light green hoodie, overalls in Battle of Gods, and later a yellow jacket or purple vest in Dragon Ball Super and GT.
He's also noted to be taller in Dragon Ball Super, Superhero, indicating his physical growth into adolescence. These variations in appearance also subtly hint at his less rigid, more adaptive nature compared to his consistently serious future self.
Now let's talk about their contrasting encounters, how these two very different versions of the same character actually interacted, creating some truly unique narrative moments. We know future Trunks rescued baby Trunks and Bulma from Dr. Gero.
And in a lighter moment, young Trunks was even seen incessantly pulling on future Trunks' hair, a hint of his mischievous personality even as a baby, unknowingly tormenting his future self.
Video game interpretations have offered various scenarios, with young Trunks sometimes calling future Trunks just like having a brother, showcasing an innocent connection. Or future Trunks being disappointed by his spoiled counterpart, highlighting the dramatic differences in their development.
But their most significant and emotionally resonant meeting was in Dragon Ball Super, wasn't it? Where present Trunks cheered for future Trunks during his sparring match with Goku, clearly impressed by his raw power and battle prowess. This wasn't just a casual meeting, it was a collision of two vastly different realities.
So what does this all mean? It's not just about strength, it's about the heart, isn't it?
Yeah, present Trunks initially felt a touch of jealousy, as Mai, his crush, was starting to fall for future Trunks. He even tried to act like his future self to win her over, which was pretty funny and indicative of his typical, playful, slightly manipulative nature.
But after future Trunks explained the unspeakable horrors of his world, the dynamic shifted profoundly. Present Trunks began to show great care and concern for his older counterpart, truly empathizing with his struggles and sacrifices. He started loving him as if he was his older brother, a bond forged not by shared upbringing, but by shared bloodline and a newfound understanding of suffering.
It was a beautiful moment of empathy, bridging the gap between their disparate lives, hinting at the potential for growth within the pampered prince.
This newly formed bond highlights the enduring legacy of Trunks in the Dragon Ball universe. In both his iterations, he serves as a central figure, highlighting the complex consequences of time travel and alternate realities. His story is a unique lens through which to view the entire saga, forcing us, the audience, to consider the what-ifs and what could be. He's a living testament to the butterfly effect, showing how a single moment in time can splinter into vastly different destinies.
And his story explores such powerful themes that resonate far beyond just the Dragon Ball universe. First, there's the stark contrast between despair and hope. Future Trunks embodies the relentless struggle to maintain hope in the face of utter, apocalyptic devastation. His entire journey is a testament to the human, and Saiyan, Spirit's refusal to give up, even when everything seems lost. He is hope personified in the darkest of times, continually reaching for a better future.
Then there's the undeniable impact of environment. The profound difference in their upbringings, one forged in the fires of constant battle and loss, the other raised in luxury and relative peace, demonstrates how drastically circumstances can shape personality and development, even for characters with shared genetics. It's a classic nature versus nurture debate played out on a grand science scale, showing that even with innate power, the path one takes is defined by their world.
The parental influence is another huge theme, particularly the contrasting relationships both Trunks have with Vegeta. Future Trunks yearned for a father he never truly knew, struggling with Vegeta's pride, even as he tried desperately to impress him. He carried the burden of trying to connect with a man who was, for him, largely a myth.
Whereas present Trunks grew up idolizing a father who was slowly, subtly becoming a better man, even while fearing his discipline. It showcases vastly different facets of father-son dynamics within the Saiyan lineage, from the absent and idealized to the present and flawed.
And finally, Future Trunks' journey, especially in the Super era, teaches the powerful lesson of individual strength versus reliance on others. He grew from a lone warrior, burdened by the crushing weight of his world, to someone who finally acknowledged that collaboration and trust in allies could be a warrior's greatest strength.
It's a profound shift for a Dragon Ball character, whose heroes often rely solely on their own escalating power. Trunks uniquely demonstrates that vulnerability and connection can be the ultimate power-up.
Despite their extraordinary Saiyan powers and apocalyptic settings, both Trunks' stories resonate with universal themes of growth, loss, perseverance, and the unyielding will to protect loved ones. They're not just powerful fighters, they're deeply human, or rather, deeply earthling Saiyan characters, making their journeys incredibly relatable and emotionally resonant.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Trunks' story is a compelling exploration of free will versus predestination. He constantly fights to change what seems inevitable, to rewrite the future he was dealt. And in doing so, he alters not just his own fate, but countless others. His struggles are a powerful narrative argument for the agency of the individual, even in the face of overwhelming odds.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the incredible split narrative of Trunks, from the tormented survivor of an apocalypse to the pampered prince, and how their paths ultimately influenced each other, here's a provocative thought for you, the listener. Given their deeply different experiences and the profound lessons learned, particularly by future Trunks from his battles and from Vegeta, how do you think their respective futures might continue to unfold?
Consider this. Will present Trunks, having glimpsed his future counterpart's struggles and sacrifices, seek to embody some of those hard-earned virtues, perhaps developing a deeper sense of responsibility or a more pragmatic approach to life? Or will his privileged life and playful nature keep him on a distinct path, one where he might never face the same crucible of despair?
What does Trunks' story, in all its complexity and paradoxes, tell us about the power of choice and environment in shaping who we become? And if you could send a message back in time to one of them, which Trunks would it be, and what would you tell him?
We encourage you to reflect on these themes and the incredible journey of these two characters. Which version of Trunks resonates most with you, and why? What are the broader implications of time travel and alternate timelines in storytelling, beyond just the Dragon Ball universe?
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Dive into the comments and let us know what you think. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.